Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to Tug of Heart. I hope you guys had an amazing Valentine's Day. And today is going to be so different because we have so many people to thank coming off of Valentine's Day, which is a heart-filled week. First and foremost, Lori, thank you for just bringing this idea up, if for no other reason than the fact that it has just enhanced what I live as a happy life. And I'm sure so many people are benefiting from this in whatever way that is, and we don't mind any of them. Also, Strong Island Radio, you are doing an amazing job. Thank you for keeping us motivated and encouraging us. And if you don't know anything about Strong Island, look them up. I mean, the owner operator does amazing stuff. I'm actually thinking of coming up with a design. I've always been fascinated with embroidery, and by gosh, he does that too. So I'm going to give that a whirl. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the Sherpa, and not the mountaineering genius on the borders of Nepal and Tibet, but more the Sherpas who carry the hearts of mankind. And with that, and this was Lori's idea, by the way, she is brilliant. Lori, welcome.
Welcome. Hi.
Hey.
How you doing? So I'll just get right into where I'm headed with this, okay? You and I've had enough time to be talking where I was thinking of adding another component to our conversations where we talk about
guest speakers.
Guest speakers, possibly.
Oh, I would love to have guest speakers. Just keep that in your mind because I would love to.
Well, this is how it begins, I think. And that's opening up to this idea that there's different attributes of the heart and different people who have different strengths in their heart. Now, and there'll be certain characteristics that all hearts have, but some are just a little bit more evident in some people. And I feel like you could call it either their natural gifts or something they've developed, if that's what it is, but just certain things that people can really stand to teach others about the heart by the way that they behave or just are naturally. So I would like to start, we'll just name it names. Like you said, when we talk about the heart, it can be very hard to talk about things that become mystical, supernatural, whatever you want to call it, metaphysical. So a lot of times we have to identify something we can see outside of us that's simple and use that to point to what it kind of exemplifies about the heart, because the heart is spoken about in metaphors so often, because I don't know how else we would talk about it, because like we had said last time, a lot of the heart is mysterious. So that's what we're left with. So your wife, Joanne, and I were talking the other night, and I had brought up, I was thinking of this at the time. If you got to think of like what your gift is that you were made with to share with the world, what do you think? And we were throwing around ideas, some funny about one another. And as Joanne and I were naming things about you, you jokingly laughed and just said, you guys are basically saying I'm a Sherpa. Ding, ding, ding. From that, I was like, that's it. That's it. And then I said, well, I was thinking Saint Bernard, but actually Sherpa is a better word. But it solidified what I was already thinking, that I wanted to have just a fun way to identify different attributes of the heart. And when you said that, I was like, well, now that encompasses all the different things we were throwing out there at you. So Leroy, welcome. I want to invite you to represent the first kind of heart, or a characteristic of the heart that I think is just very natural, probably innate for you specifically. And I want to ask you some questions about it because I think it's something that can help me to expand the Sherpa aspects of my heart, and probably others who listen, or dismiss it if it's not for them. No problem with that either. However it is, I think it's worth having a look at. So when I talk about this kind of like identification of a Sherpa and you having a Sherpa heart, I also had joked that the word I'm talking about is sucker. Now, I'm not teasing you and saying you're a sucker for doing it, but this word is very special to me. It's SUCCOUR. Okay. Or you could say succor. And it's this very specific gift, where when somebody finds themselves in a kind of immediate need, you are the person we go to or don't go to. You have a sense for it, but it's this person who hurries to be helpful to those in need or who find themselves in difficulty. What a gift. What a gift. And it's served me well, this gift of yours, many times. So to start, tell me what you think about like just having this certain label placed on you. Now, it's not in isolation. Your heart is many things, but this happens to be one that's a little dominant among your gifts. How do you feel about what it's called, and what do you think, first of all?
So, first and foremost, I'm humbled. But in that humility, I'm going to be very, very honest. And the honesty is difficult for me to vocalize. The reason that I'm a willing participant when something is wrong, and we have joked for a long time, like, I'm not the first call you make. No, I'm not the first call my daughter makes. I'm the last call.
Right.
I am the last call. I mean, and I'm the last call for a reason, because I'm very difficult, very matter of fact. There is very little gray in my solutions. But let me tell you why I am always enthusiastic to get dirty, so to speak. There are many times in my life I'm not proud. I'm not proud of the assigned burden that I've given other people. And when I say assigned burden, I mean, I made somebody a Sherpa by simply speaking less than kind. Because somehow in my mind, in my world, in my knee-jerk reaction, my own frustration bled out as unkindness verbally. And that's a hard thing to admit. In the beginning of my life, where I was placed as the curator of a life, I didn't know how things went. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't have any idea. And I did so many things wrong. And when I say wrong, I say this with just the utmost humility and apologetic nature that I can muster, because the truth is, I mean, I did a lot of things that were just bad, because I thought it would make me feel better. And I think immediately to being rude or putting myself in front. And so what happened is that the people that I interacted with in life became my heart's Sherpa. They carried my heart unknowingly, but I made them my Sherpa by doing things that were less than kind. And so I'm left placing playing, I'm sorry, not placing, but I'm left playing catch up, which I'll never catch up because I should have been doing this all along. So now if I see somebody that is in need, want, destitution, I feel inclined in my heart to just to contribute, to put forth effort that might lighten their burden. I am also a believer that aptitude is a world responsibility. When I say world, that means aptitude is you do have a responsibility to the world within your house, to the world within your workforce, to the world within your earshot. So if you have the ability and deny it, withhold it, whether it's sharing something here on Tug of Heart or in person or listening and just closing your mouth. If you have the ability, I think you have that obligation to society. So while you give me this tremendous compliment about having a likeness to a Sherpa, it's really, it's present because of all that I got wrong.
I absolutely value what you're saying in a very profound way, because I was thinking almost like you would give us a step-by-step practical how to do it. But I think in the case of the heart, I'm rethinking this just now, sometimes it's more important for certain gifts that we share with the world to understand why than how. The how becomes less important, because when I think about it, your how is obsolete when somebody is in need. How falls by the wayside because it needs to get done. So I'll begin the scramble. That's how. And a lot of times, one of the things I think of in terms of Sherpas, I specifically think of Mount Everest. I have a little bit of a distraction with Mount Everest. I don't know if I've ever told you this. Like, I get a little obsessed to the point where I wish it's something maybe we had done when we were younger. It's very intriguing to me, and the Sherpas are a big part of that. But the thing that you have that is like them is when something happens, there's no hesitation on your part to move into action. And so that removes the how, because you're already moving before you've had time to sort out the pros and cons of balancing act. How happens because it's what you do. That's how. You just do what you must, right? And I think one of the gifts of a Sherpa type is to just do what must be done, because who else will? Or who else has a decent chance of success? And that's when it comes before you. It only matters that there's a need that you know something about and kind of know what to do. And so you do it. So people from all around the world on Mount Everest go to climb. When a Sherpa is asked, like, they guide and they help, and they also assist in a different way. When somebody has overdone it, overextended themselves, misjudged something, gotten lost, and they'll get called to go, there's not this sorting of who is it, from which country, which flag are they holding, which camp. If they're nearby or able, they go. I had written, just off the top of my head, a couple other things about being a Sherpa. If any of these that kind of hit on any part of you that you want to speak about, you can. I'm just going to go ahead and list them in for the sake of time, though, and then just make a note any that you would like to speak about. So when I think of Sherpas, I think of people that travel light with their own personal stuff. Okay. I think of a person who has spent a lifetime becoming acclimated to the environment that they'll help within. I think of a quickness, strong, somebody who knows the terrain and quite capable of working within those elements, sometimes because they're a native of that place or native to providing what's needed. They know literally the means and direction towards the comfort that that person in need requires, and they're able to carry more than their weight. I'll stop there for now because that's quite a lot. Any of those that you care to speak on, I would be grateful for.
Yeah, I think that everybody's a Sherpa.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because we all, in as much as we have unique capabilities and we excel at certain things, those are the things where we become or actively are a Sherpa for somebody else. If you don't believe me, look at Amazon.
Interesting.
Arrives at your front door, you know? I mean, they don't just move camp, they move. I mean, they made it to the point where you almost don't even need to leave home.
Right.
You know, so traveling light, you know, somebody who's able to hold their breath for 5 minutes can do a lot more, you know, underwater than somebody who's never attempted it. So there is an acclimation, I mean, you know, where you can really offer assistance. When I think of Sherpa and I think about it in my life, I think about tug of heart and kind of like what the objective is, you know, and it is to go beyond. And I'm not sure it's multifaceted, but in as much as we want to understand ourselves, I know you and I am discovering more about me, but there's a big desire to do more, you know, things that we can affect others outside of our own home. And so that means being a Sherpa, you know, carrying something, some type of relief. Because while we may all want to climb a mountain, we can't all climb a mountain because we don't live by the mountain. So we don't have, you know, we need somebody to carry some relief. If we were left, any of the people that climb these mountains, they almost surely would not be successful without somebody carrying relief. When I say relief, that's clothing, that's warmth, that's food, that's water, that's everything. But all of those things collectively are simply relief. And so that's how I look at being a Sherpa. You know, we have to carry relief for others. I mean, we do it for our children, we do it for our spouses, we do it for our coworkers, we do it for our employers. In exchange, there's an exchange, you know, but looking at it through the eyes of tug of heart, you know, the exchange is, for me, you know, in being included in this podcast, is that I unknowingly am solving a lot of things within myself.
You have to be willing to, right?
I'm going to go with no.
I mean, to serve as an example.
Again, I'm going to go with no.
Okay.
I think it's impossible not to improve your own understanding and your own connection to your heart, and if you don't have a mindful heart, discipline, you'll quickly get it the more you talk about it,
Right.
you
Right.
know? And even if you don't really want to, you can't help but, pick it up along the way. And when we were talking during the last episode about going beyond, just doing something, normalizing. Well, that's being a Sherpa. That's bringing relief in any form. A compliment, um, a meal, a coffee, changing somebody's tire. I mean, it's like literally, it's endless what we can do. We can also just be decent, because I know what it's like not to be decent. In the act of being decent, you are carrying relief in the sense of humanity. So that's how I see it, Lori. I think.
Good
I think.
stuff. Amazing. Um, I was thinking when you were saying the acclamation, and I was thinking like the acclimated heart, as you were telling me about somebody who can hold their breath 5 minutes is more useful in the water. So in that form and in that circumstance, they become the lifesaver, right? Literally,
Mhm.
often. And I want to take a moment and go back to when we were talking about crying. And it's important for me that you try to hear this with your heart, because I'm really moved by what you said. And I feel like a lot of times people answer their own riddles or questions in life. And I kind of think you did, because when we were talking about crying repeatedly, you were like, almost to what end does crying happen? And what is the end for those who don't cry as often? Okay. I just see it today. It makes sense to me that you would cry a little less, because in this way, in the same way that a person is gasping for breath, a Sherpa could not be doing the same and provide that relief. They need to be somebody that can make it to the same summit without gasping for breath, so that they could be of the highest form of relief and assistance necessary at that time. In the same way, there are Sherpas who have acclimated their hearts to hold more tension, where others that tension would lead to tears, and does. And I think this answers the question of, like, for you, maybe why not so many tears? Because you've allowed your heart, whatever it is, whether it's the pain of blisters and then callousing, or holding the breath till the lungs feel like they're going to burst, or whatever form this takes with the heart in terms of tears and crying. I think you have kind of mastered the acclamation, where when a situation calls for it, and somebody is crying, sometimes you just can't save them if you are doing the same. And we're not saying save forever after. So nobody is saying this is a savior, whatever. But one of the many savings we all need, which I'm also led to just now contemplate when you say that you many times had Sherpas, and
Or assigned them.
that you what?
I assigned them
Right.
unknowingly,
You called it the assigned burden. You made someone a Sherpa. And by doing that repeatedly, you also kind of acclimated their heart. And here we go back to this recurring theme of the cycle, the circle that you bring up. The other thing I want to point out about the work that Sherpas have done, when I have called you, when your daughter has called you, when other people have called, or you've passed somebody in need. And you talked about climbing the mountain. What doesn't matter in the instance of somebody's terrible discomfort or just suffering, if you want to call it that, is what they're doing on the mountain. Because a lot of times, if you think of like a literal Sherpa, and then what it points to with the heart Sherpa, sometimes somebody was so stubborn they wouldn't get off that mountain because they wanted to reach the summit for selfish reasons, for good reasons, who knows? In that instant, it doesn't matter. And it's very hard to Sherpa for another's heart, without fully accepting that yours is only to be available to provide that relief. It has nothing to do with how that person came to be in that distress, whether it was being mistaken, their misjudgment, their bad choices. All that you need to know in that moment is need and response. What do you think about that part?
My first knee jerk is that when we're talking about matters of the heart, Sherpas become really, really important.
Right.
And the reason being is that most of the people climbing Everest or any,
success mountains.
You're right. Anybody who's looking to summit is doing it for notoriety, while a Sherpa can easily climb that mountain week after week after week in the name of relief.
Right.
So and it's funny because where does the real glory lie? In offering relief or in standing back and saying, "Behold, look what I've accomplished." It's kind of, I used to watch these videos and I'm not, listen, good deeds are good deeds. But I heard somebody saying, if you want to feed the homeless, feed the homeless. If you post a video of you feeding the homeless, you're feeding your ego.
Right.
So there's a certain amount of that in all of us. Like, nobody's immune.
We're human.
What's that?
We're human. No shame in
we are human. But there's something that is amazing about being a Sherpa in the name of relief. That I think that requires it certainly calls for a closer look as we go out and do things, because that is probably, a lot of times, unknowingly, another person's success has a lot to do with the Sherpas in their life, the people
almost
who carry the relief.
Almost unseen Sherpas quite often. When we reach the highest points of our life, it wasn't without the assistance of many whose name doesn't make it to the list of people you'd like to thank.
Let me take a second, and I'm going to note that Steve deserves recognition.
My Steve?
Your Steve. And let me tell you why. I struggled, and I'm not here to enter into a spirited debate. I think everybody's entitled to do what's right for them. I struggled with the expedient nature of the vaccine.
Right.
I struggled personally. And I struggle, I'm like a lot of things in my life. I struggle with, whether or not taking meds is, creating a deficiency. I'm never quick to grab NyQuil. I'm never quick to grab Tylenol, Aleve. I'm just not. That's not me. Never has been. I changed my diet probably, but I generally have, for the most part, gone through my life with very little, pharmaceuticals.
Right.
So I really had a struggle with this. And I made the decision simply by avoiding it that wasn't, that apparently I'm an anti-vaxxer. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And Steve sat and he talked with me, and he's got such a good bedside manner. And he said, "Listen, what can you do to protect yourself?" I said, "Well, wash my hands, wear a mask, socially distance." He said, "Yeah, that's excellent. All good things. Everybody should be doing that. You should have been doing that long before. He says, I'm sad to learn that you've only started washing your hands now.
Welcome, you're late.
Yeah, welcome to the party. You're late. Well, I'm using spray and, sanitizer. He's like, well, great. You probably should have been doing that all along. But he said, what else can you do? And I said, well, I mean, if we were to take it on its face value, I probably, should look at a vaccine, because I mean, everything points in the right direction. I just wish that we had a little bit more information. He says, well, there you go. He said, just kind of, you have to do everything that you can. And through his patience, through his just patience and non-forceful demeanor, I made the decision that, hey, I probably should look at this closely. And he gave me a comfort level. He provided me that relief, that peace of mind that I could make that I could change my decision. And he was my Sherpa in that decision. And that's a big decision, a really, really hard decision. And he's just like, he provided the relief that I needed as I struggled in that moment. And I think that is at its core what a Sherpa looks like.
I like that. And I think
so, Steve, shout out to you wherever you're at, making your rounds. Job well done, because you did. You provided relief, and you do it with levity, and you do it with joking, and you do it with sincerity, and you do it with a doctor's creed always, in your mind. And I appreciate it. Thank you. You didn't even know you were a Sherpa. You were my Sherpa.
And thank you for being you in that state, because you made someone a Sherpa. It's kind of a gift when you say it that way. I think also it points to the fact that a lot of times what Sherpa are doing are trying to convince people to return. At pre-summit, you're not going to make it to the top. You're not going to make it to you don't get to follow that idea to its end. A lot of times we save people by convincing them of what they can't unsee, right?
What do you mean?
I only see the summit. I'm going to see the summit. I only see this. I don't see this happening. It's having that ability to change a person's vision somewhat of themselves and where they're headed, and being able to accurately express that, which coming back to you as a Sherpa, I think you're able to do. And sometimes it can be kind of rough when somebody's like, that's not really gonna, when you have to talk somebody back and say, there's no other way to say it. You cannot continue where you're headed. You're not going to make it. And that's one of the uglier, tougher parts, I would imagine, of being a Sherpa. What do you think about that it is part of it, just having to convince somebody to retreat sometimes for their own benefit?
I like the word summit, because I think that all too often we compare ourselves with other people, and we actually compare our success or failure with other people. But I think everybody has a different summit, and summit is as far as you can go. When you've gone as far as you can go, you have hit the summit in your life.
That's your summit.
What's that?
That's your summit, you're saying?
Correct. I think, I mean, I've got this desire to break a 9-minute mile, and I'm still working on it, but every day I summit, you know what I mean? Every day that I get out there and, and push a little harder, I am definitely reaching my summit. That is, I'm going as far as I can. So I think we have to remember that with the Sherpas in our lives, I mean, it's there's we're successful. When Steve talked to me and I was able to find resolve with my decision, you know, I hit the summit, you know, late, like you say, you know, and but that doesn't mean that other people are not hitting their summit in their own way. You know what I mean? Our job isn't to identify the summit, it's just to offer the relief that we can along the way. That was kind of a side note, but it came into my mind when we were talking about summit, because
I'm going to add another side note to your side note, if you don't mind. It also makes me think that when a Sherpa does arrive in our life, when we've gone and got ourselves into that position, it's not so bad to sometimes listen, because we fight people a lot for us to just press forward with our thinking, our right, our summit, what we want it to be. And a lot of times, I think this is such a good thing for me to think is, if a Sherpa arrives, kind of listen, because you might be in thinner air making decisions and you don't even know it when you're there. But something is a little off when, as you approach a summit, your thinking does change. And it's sometimes not as clear. So listen, if a Sherpa shows up, a heart Sherpa, because they're acclimated, they may be able to see something that you can't see when you're in that particular zone. Because you lose your senses a little when the closer you get to a goal, you know, the more open we are to the crazies or unclear thinking.
So true. So true.
You got to be open to the Sherpas.
So accept the Sherpas, become a Sherpa.
Embrace your inner Sherpa.
That's right. Let's carry relief. Let's carry relief for our own hearts. Let's always be mindful and carry, you know, look after our own heart, you know, do what's right for us and offer relief to our own heart and mind. Also, you know, let's be generous in relief when we have the aptitude, when we have the natural aptitude to solve another's challenge, and we can carry relief for them. Let's be quick to do it. I mean, and yeah, I think that's good stuff. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you for being that and for having the Sherpa's heart. One quick question, if we have just a minute. Do you think that to be able to move quick like that requires a type of impulsive, compulsive personality? How do other people tap into it who would otherwise kind of dig their heels in a little bit when their heart is tugged to help somebody? Is there anything that you can recommend to just move?
Yeah, probably move quickly when it's things that you're familiar with.
I like that. Thank you.
Because you're good at it. You're already good at it. You've been training your whole life. That's your aptitude.
That's brilliant. You know? There's more to be said about that, I'm sure.
Right. Just exercise what you already are highly proficient at. If it's cooking, if it's financial discipline, if it's mechanical aptitude, you know, go to that first and be quick to respond when it's easy for you, because what's easy for you could change the world for somebody whom does not make light work of it.
Oh, let's end on that thought. That's brilliant. Say it one more time and let's end on that. What's easy for you might not light work for somebody else. Is that what you said?
That's exactly right. You just said it.
I love that. That's a great takeaway. Bless the Sherpas. I'm happy to have you as my private Sherpa in my life many times.
All right. So with that, Lori, can't wait to chat next week. And adios, everybody. Walk away, Sherpa.
Yes. Remember, you can like and share the podcast and Strong Island. And really, thank you for joining us. And I hope we all get a little bit more in touch with our Sherpa that we also do have within each of us. Until next time, please farewell and adios.
Adios.